And my apologies if I mispronounced your name.
You got it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So full disclosure, I'm the aforementioned sister of Katie King. I just thought I would get that. I hope I make her as proud as she made me. I thought that was pretty awesome. Yeah. Am I okay to start?
Yes, you are. Thank you.
Madam Mayor and members of the General Issues Committee, I'm Anastasia Zavarella. I'm Katie King's sister, and unfortunately, I'm also a political scientist as per my degree from the University of Guelph. So sorry about that. I have some redeeming qualities, though. I'm a current Ward 3 resident of 20 plus years throughout my lifetime, and hopefully it's where my wife and I will be for the rest of our lives. I'm also a former harm reduction worker and a housing worker. So I just thought I would bring to you today some points to consider as you review the budget increase to the Hamilton Police Services budget. Our laws, the ones that when violated give the state and police power to exact violent retribution on behalf of the Crown, are not inherently ethical. Consuming drugs and selling sexual services, for example, are not inherently dangerous, but policing and punishing the people who consume drugs or the people who provide sexual services makes the circumstances around these activities incredibly dangerous for both sellers and consumers, and that danger is then used to justify the existence of police. This is what I would call a self-fulfilling prophecy, or a vicious cycle. You can take your pick. The drug war is not a war on drugs so much as it is a campaign of terror waged by the police against the most marginalized people in our city who happen to use drugs, sell drugs for their own survival, or are perceived as being consumers or sellers. Disproportionately, the people criminalized for their substance use are poor, disabled, and/or members of racialized communities. I object strenuously to our publicly held resources, including our tax dollars and including our property tax dollars that I pay as a homeowner, whatever that means. I strenuously object to our publicly held resources being dedicated to this endeavor. Again, I used to be a harm reduction worker, so I have a slight bias here. We need to mature our discourse and admit that when we measure policing by the metric of supporting safer, healthier communities, it is an abject failure. This is undebatable. The evidence is clear. You cannot police your way out of houselessness or a housing crisis. You have to provide housing to do that. You cannot police your way out of an overdose crisis. You have to provide regulated, safe supply of drugs and safe caring spaces in which people can consume them and move on with their lives. And move on with their lives. Their lives are still intact, is what I mean by that. I know that you may view it as politically expedient to vote in favor of increases to police budgets. This is a known phenomenon in the politics of legislation. But the people here today are your constituents. The people here today protesting these budget increases and protesting the existence of the police are your constituents. And whether you like it or not, so are homeless people, so are people who use drugs, so are sex workers, so are undocumented migrants, so are BIPOC communities, and poor and working class people. You are also accountable to them. You are accountable to them, and we as a community, interconnected as we are, need real solutions, not ones that are politically expedient. We need evidence-based solutions. A $12 million budget increase to an already bloated vestige of colonialism would be a fundamental betrayal of the people in Hamilton who need your help the most. That's it.
Is that it? Thank you, Anastasia. Yes. Are there any questions for our delegate? Seeing none, I thank you for your attendance today and your presentation.
Thank you.
Item 6.18 is Joe Aitchison, respecting the 2023 Hamilton Police Services budget. This is an in-person